Hey everyone, Ron Spomer. Hey, I want to invite you to subscribe to our channel and to check us out at our website, ronspomeroutdoors.com, where we have a lot of information about rifles and shotguns and hunting and shooting and conservation. Glad to have you along. And a definite shout out to our patrons on Patreon. We really appreciate the support. You folks enable us to take the time to make these videos, and we sure appreciate that. So if you're not a patron for Ron Spomer Outdoors, you've got an opportunity. Just go to the Patreon app and join us. We would sure appreciate it. Now, today I would like to talk about aesthetics in firearms. If you're sort of a typical hunter, like I grew up as, you might just like a functional, simple gun like this. This is a CZ lightweight 12 gauge with a Cerakoted steel so it doesn't rust. Real pragmatic hunters like something like this. Nothing fancy. But if you're more of a traditionalist, for example, a lever action shooter, you might like the old case color hardened finish. That stuff looks pretty cool. When I was younger, I thought that looks dorky. That's an old clunky gun. But as I got older and started to appreciate the art of applying case color hardening to metal surfaces, I really started to like that swirl. It's like pouring gasoline on water and you get all those beautiful swirling colors. So that's kind of a fancy way to decorate your rifle. And of course, as we all know, rifles have been carved and engraved for hundreds of years probably. You can go pretty far back in some old flintlocks and find lots of nice touches. You know, the Native Americans often put brass tacks in the stocks and carved it different ways. It's just an individual choice. Some of us, of course, really like these fancy engraved actions. I mean, look at this beauty. Not only is it deeply engraved and extensively engraved, but they even have gold inlays. And that is really getting up there. Now, most of us can't afford guns like that, but boy, we sure can appreciate the art that goes into doing that. That is handwork. There are some computer programs now that are doing some engraving, and they'll probably at some point exceed what the human can do. But right now, artists are who do that engraving, and man, did I stumble onto a good one. Jesse Kaufman is a South Dakotan, and oddly enough, he grew up on a farm probably 12 to 15 miles from where I did. But I never knew him. He's about 15 years younger or so, so I just sort of skipped right over Jesse. But he is quite a guy. He has that natural hand-eye coordination that makes for a great sportsman. And he was a drummer in high school, and he went on to be a drummer for a rock band that toured for, 10, 15 years. But he was also a hunter and a shooter. And he actually won the South Dakota trap shooting championship once. So the guy can really shoot. And he went to work as a stock builder for Dakota Arms at some point, and he was really building some beautiful rifle stocks. But then he got a little bit bored with that, and he got interested in engraving, and he thought he would try his hand at it. So he did a little research, studied some books, started fooling around, and really fell in love with the whole concept. And today he is retired from working for anyone but himself. He has a little engraving business in his home. He's a great family man, and he's just dedicated to his art. I had a chance to stop at his place and see just where he works and how he works, and he was kind enough to show me the ropes and explain what he does as an engraver. And that's what this video is all about. So without further ado, I would like to turn this over to Jesse and invite you to watch this man and listen carefully to his passion, because he definitely has the passion of an artist and he loves what he's doing. And I think you'll agree with me when you see some of his finished work. This man really knows his art.
Well, Ron, it's kind of nice to know that a one-time farm kid from eastern South Dakota was able to get a job at Dakota Arms. And there I was able to stock an awful lot of guns, around 1,700 guns, roughly, a little bit more. I used to have a book around here somewhere, but well, yeah, here. But yeah, this one is it. This was the book that I had, that I kept a record of every gun that I did at that factory, for that firm. It was very well detailed. We got the the chronological number, the caliber, the model, who it went to, when I got the gun done. So it's kind of nice to have that around here. You know, I look at it every now and again. I get customers call me and wondering if I did that gun for them, and I said, well, we'll look. And about half the time I did. So, but you know, over the years, I kind of got not bored with stock making, but it kind of changed my desires, and it kind of changed. And I got into engraving more. And the reason I got into engraving was going to safari clubs. I would go to a safari club, either in Reno or in Las Vegas, with Dakota Arms. I would put on a little, what would you call it, a show 4 times a day, 1 hour at a time, for a whole bunch of people. I would show them how to stock a gun, how to glass a gun, and all of that kind of stuff. So, and then at those shows, I got to meet engravers, and that's where this whole thing started. So, and now, a number of years later, quite a few, I just completed this Remington Model 3200, which has been my most best piece that I've ever done. About 5 months worth of work on it. The barrels are all up in my shop. I don't have them down here on display, but this gun is about ready to go for bluing now. And so it starts out, you know, you have to get a blueprint of the gun, and I have a way that I do that with tracing paper and double-sided tape, and you take a print of the gun that way, and you put it on paper, and then once you get it into paper, you scan it into a computer. At least that's what I do, and I can get it on my iPad, and sometimes I'll draw on my iPad with that kind of stuff. But for scenery, you still can't beat the paper and pencil. That's how I do it. And here's this side of this gun. I framed it. It was such an unmolested print that I thought, well, I'm just going to keep this one. So I signed it and I framed it, and I keep it in my den, and I can look at it and remember how hard that was. Some people say, oh, you make it look so easy, but it's really not easy at all. I fret and I sweat, and the thought never leaves your mind. The whole entire process, day and night. You wake up thinking, how can I do that a little bit better? And boy, I want to make sure I get those gravers ground up, you know, good, so that they're sharp and I can, you know, get the gradation right. I don't want to overcut the background. I want to overcut the foreground. I want to make sure my grass looks right. And all this stuff has to come together. And it's an amazing process. It's a worrisome process. But when you get all done and you look at it, it never looks good enough. So you put it away for 4 or 5 days, and you look at it again and you go, man, that looks pretty good. It's something how your eyes get used to, your mind, your psyche gets used to looking at something for so long that you don't think it's really quite good enough yet. Or it's not really good enough. But after you don't look at it for a while, come back, it looks pretty good. It's a little bit like raising pigs. I know this isn't about engraving here, but you know, you're raising hogs, right? And you're around them day and night, right? Well, if you go for like a week or 5 days, you come back, wow, them hogs really grew. You know, that's just something I threw in there, but it's a fact. It's kind of how that works. But once you're done, then it has to, of course, get blued. And then once it's blued, then you got to go ahead and you got to put all this stuff back together again. And thank goodness that there are people that are much more skilled than me in all that department. I have to rely upon some very talented people in our area to help me put this stuff back together. You know, it takes a long time, and takes somebody who knows what I'm dealing with. This isn't a cheap gun. In the end, it's some people have built a home in as much time as I've taken to engrave this gun. Not that much money, of course, as a home, but that much time. So, although one does not get rich as an engraver, I make a good living and I enjoy my work. Boy, I love being in this little shop by myself. I'm comforted by the wood and by my books, and everything I need is right here. I've got good music, I've got good work, I've had a lot of great friends that have helped me out along the way to help guide me. I've gone to school, I've been able to go to Germany and visit some great people over there, and I can't wait to go back. I'm hoping to go back maybe next year. Hopefully the world will open up for us to travel, and I can go back this time to not only visit Germany again, but go and visit Italy. I want to learn the skill more of Bulino and Puntini about this type of work, because it's really exciting to make something photorealistic. And I have a ways to go. I mean, I'm at a good skill level. but there's always another plateau to meet. And it's wonderful. It's very nice. So to be an engraver is kind of like the movie from the 60s, The Agony and the Ecstasy. It takes both. It takes a lot of emotion to create this stuff. And it's very difficult work. People think, oh, it must be nice. You're sitting in your basement and you got the TV on all day. Well, that's part of my environment that I have to create to produce. You can't be bothered by people. You got to shut my phone off. You can't have a brick and mortar downtown where you got somebody stopping in every 2 minutes to see what you're doing. That does not work. This is a lot like, in a way, in essence, maybe it's like being a surgeon in the respect that you have to have privacy and be able to focus, because you don't know how long something's going to take. You take your best guess at how long this will take. And you never hold yourself to that, because it never ends up being what you think. It's always longer. But it's a joyful path, and it's a marvelous vocation. And I'm so thankful, after a lot of years in my life, finally in my 40s, I'm in my late 50s now, but in my 40s I discovered this world of engraving. And boy, I tell you, I dove in hook, line, and sinker, and I took every class I could, and I visited everybody that I could, and I talked to everybody I could, and I spent money on books, and I read more, and I worked 1,600 hours of practice plates and drawing. I keep track of all this stuff. 1,600 hours of that before I cut my first gun, and then I bought a cheap black powder gun from Cabela's, and I did it for my mother. I did that for my mom. And when she passed away, it was in her will that I got that gun back. And it is back. It's upstairs in a nice display case, but yes, yeah. So, and now here I am, all these years later. I get to be a part of folks like Ron Spomer here, and a great group of people in this country that are dedicated to quality, and quality that they don't need to be told what to do. They know what to do from within. If it's not good enough for me, then it ain't going to be good enough for my customers. And I take great pride in that, by following through for my customers, making sure that they're taken care of long afterwards when the job is done. Sometimes I might call a customer that I did a gun for 4 or 5 years ago just to say hi. Not to try to drum up business. That's not what it's about. Just to see how they're doing. And boy, you'd be surprised how far that'll take you. You know, when people know that you really care. And I love that part about this work. It's just, I think maybe that's why I do it. To be inspired by your own abilities, by working hard and seeing growth in yourself. Sometimes it gets taxing. It does. Sometimes you have a very long job and things have to go right the whole step, the whole way. Like, you don't want no gold coming out. You don't want to scratch anything. You want to be real careful when you're clamping something into a vise that's about done. There's a lot of things like